Did you watch the meeting?
Yes.
I'm going to.
I'm unmuting.
Hey, Eric, your voice quality is low.
I know, especially when I'm not talking. Don't push up. Well, that one works, but it's not the, don't click the X font. I mean,
Every thinks her voice quality is low, it'll pop up.
oh, is it? It's just weird. I don't like it. Okay, so as we're getting ready, a question came up saying, you know, I found where the link is for the board meeting, but how do I actually view the board discussion if you're interested into that? So I'm going to take you, for those who are interested, if you just go, when I say just, you go to the state's website, schools.utah.gov, you click on the board, and you would come over here to board home. Once you're inside of here, scroll to board meeting, which is, you know, Utah board meetings. And the process to view the board, one, you can see the meetings, but the live streams right here, you just click on it. It's a YouTube connection. You go in. This is where the board link will be, where you can watch it live. If you want to comment, that's a different process, and you actually have to go through the, like, I want to do a public comment period, and you actually have to submit that ahead of time. I've never done that. I don't know how to do it. I'm usually sitting in the back room, and when they say comment, they're like, you get up here and talk to us. And anyway, so I don't know the process. There's a public comment process. I don't, go ahead. So question?
Same discussion.
Okay, so one more time, when is this discussion? So this is going to be Thursday, May 2nd, afternoon. It's item number, Jared, 11? 10, item number 10. What you would be looking for in the agenda, and I don't think the agenda is public yet. I want to go away. I am trying to see.
No published meeting file.
Yeah, so it's not available yet. I mean, they're just finalizing. They're actually, well, I can see it, but that's because I have a back door. All right, who's got the echo? Is that David? Anyway, David, have you muted? Okay. It's not published, so. Okay, anyway, that is the where that is at. If you have follow-up questions, please feel free, ask, send me an email. And dang bar, go away. Sorry, just a minute. The Zoom bar is in the way. Well, yeah, duplicate slides. There we go. Okay. All right, welcome to part 2 of the presentation. Another question online like Zoom, the raise hand functionality seems to, never mind, it's there. That's under reactions. Thank you. So for this session number 2, here's the agenda. Early warning system, update the school calendar, collecting the emails, other data systems, basically school safety, the October 1 deadline, CNP, and then that will end session number 2. The numbers are a little weird, I think, right? And then we'll go into number 3, which is training, or is that all session 2? Never mind. Okay, thank you, Calista, for keeping me on track. So, and then Utrix basic training, we'll go over that. So, couple things. So early warning system. I was talking to a few of you this morning. Okay. Did I put, yeah, okay, it's here on the screen. There are currently 13 districts with right now 344 schools using the state purchased early warning system, which right now is Panorama. The question is, what about next year? What's going to happen with this? When I say next year, so the 2024-2025 school year. So if you are already utilizing the state contract, we will continue, because most districts have already signed agreements and done their budget behind that and have moved forward with it. And so the answer is we will use Panorama and the current contract, which by the way, was scheduled to go through 2026 anyway, but we will keep it in place for this next school year. For those, again, who are utilizing it. If your district is interested in using it for this upcoming year, you can. We actually have more slots available to pay for half of that fund. So again, if you hear any rumblings from your superintendent or from your charter director or whoever that you want to participate in the early warning system for the 2024-2025 school year, you may. We do have slots. You just have to communicate that with me and we contact with Panorama and we're just updating the spreadsheets behind that. So we'll be using that for the year. Here's the caveat. That is only a year guaranteed of that software vendor provider. Because at the same time, what we'll be doing is working on the RFP process during this upcoming school year to get a new vendor award in place. This will be for the entire state. Question.
So just, hey, what is an early warning system for those?
Okay.
And also, currently the cameras, state pays half, LEA pays half. And I know that there's a new law that has to do with why you're doing this whole RFP. Is the new law, is it going to be a similar thing? State pays half, LEA pays half, or is the state not going to pay it?
Okay. So two questions. First question is, what is an early warning system? Exactly, a little bit more detail what it is. And two is how's it going to be paid for? So I'll go question number one is the current state system, which is called student success, basically looks at every single student and it looks at their academic levels. It looks at their attendance. It looks at their behavior. And there is an SEL component inside of it puts it all together, and the LEAs who have utilized it will get basically thresholds that they set. And when a student hits that threshold, it comes up with an alert. Your counselors, teachers, someone is going to be looking at the system will put in then into intervention, can't speak. Intervention, thank you. Intervention in place. They actually track it within the system. Laugh at me. Yeah, we're IT. Anyway, that's the current system that we're using. Now, Davis School District has their own that they've been working on for, I'm going to say years, because I know they've been working on it for years. I know Canyons has one that they've been working on. It's homegrown. They've been working on that for years. There are probably a few others that I'm not aware of. The law then that was passed as HB 84 basically says every LEA will have, or every school will have an early warning system in place. The current process is USBE pays for half of that contract and the LEA pays for the other half. We have to put out an RFP. The state was given $2.1 million to pay for this, which if we use the current vendor is only half of the amount. So basically the LEAs would all have to come up with the additional half. Now, if you might say, but where are we going to get the money from? When we wrote the fiscal note to the legislature and they said, how much would this thing cost if we went statewide? We told them the exact amount. I'm just letting you know. We told them, this is what it costs. It's gonna be $4 million if you use the current contract. Okay? So the answer is moving forward, the state has funding for half. That will be everyone using it and current, obviously. Okay, so a hand has been risen. Go ahead, ask a question. What metric? Okay, so great question. What metrics do we have to track? The answer is, well, that will be determined upon the RFP and in consultation with multiple users. We haven't gone through that process, but the specifications and metrics that we'll be tracking will be specified when we put out the RFP. And then we'll see what vendors respond to that. Again, we'll have a larger group going through the discussion of, awarding that contract. Who's the contract? I don't know. You're like, if I knew that, I'd go down to Vegas. Probably not, but I'm just saying, I can't predict what it's going to be. Just know the panorama is the current state one, and they will go through the 2024, 2025 year. But my estimation or guess best time frame is we'll have the contract figured out by December through February timeframe. And once that is figured out, then we'll start rolling into the process of doing data connections and training and planning for then the 2025, 2026 rollout, where all LEAs will be required to submit that information. Or not submit, we will be required to have an early warning system within your LEA utilizing it. It's not a small lift, by the way. Bless you. Yeah, it's not a small lift. So go ahead, another question. No, you're good. Yes. Okay, yes. Okay, so the question is, the law requires every LEA to have an early warning system, but it also has an allowance to not use the states. But if you're not going to use the states, you do have to come in up to the compliance with what is the state standards, or its utilization or its functionality. It has to be universal. So that's why we'll be working with multiple districts to make sure that we satisfy those demands for those who already have their own bill out. I'll come back to you. Okay, question. Correct. We will not be implementing it statewide until that school year, 2025, 2026. But we have one currently for the 2024, 2025. That if you wanted to start now, or if you're working on it, you're good to go. Okay, so Steve, okay, go ahead. Yes. Okay. So the question was, when will we have documentations for the standards? The answer is, I think my first meeting is Friday. We have not written the standard. We've shared, I think I'll be sharing in a couple of minutes. There was 166 bills passed for education. It's not small. But we've taken, Greg, how long have we been working on that dang thing? He's like, a long time. We're still trying. Great question. The answer is we don't have it yet. Probably when? I'm gonna say probably July timeframe. We'll have that figured out, or we'll start. I don't know how things are going to go. There's some board members who are currently, hate anything that has to do with social emotional learning. So we'll see what that does. I'm just letting you know, it's not written, but we'll definitely be working with multiple departments and LEAs to figure out that list. So question.
Yeah, here, so when is this required?
Okay, so when is the district required to have an early warning system up and running? Right now, I would project 2025, 2026 school year is when every school should have that up and running. Okay. Does that help? Oh, wait, go ahead.
So.
Then you don't get any funding. Okay, so the question, follow-up question is, if we decide not to go with what the state purchase and we want to go with our own, do we get funding? The answer is no, you don't. You have to supply that yourself. Any follow-ups on that one? That's not fair. Okay, just I just let you know that's, and that's actually in the law, the way that is written. Okay. School calendar. This one's a light, easy one. Here you go. Thank you for, and might not even be you guys, but as of yesterday, 146 of the LEAs have submitted your calendar into the data gateway tool. Thank you so much. That's fantastic. There's a couple of you that we'll be chasing down, saying, who are you? We need to get your calendar in there. And then we basically just know what happens with this process is we pull the data, we send it over to the USBE's communication team, they take it, and then they do basically the whole state calendar for all the LEAs and for all the charter schools. A lot of people go, you know, when they're like, when is this school open? That's, for our view, a lot of people go there and look at that and say, and they try to do a comparison. So that's where that tool will be at. So I thought like 3 weeks ago when we were preparing for this meeting, it's like, I'm gonna go in there and like, only 5 of you have entered your calendar. And I'm like, please, please, please. But I was surprised, like, we're almost done. It's awesome. So thank you. Collecting LEA emails. And by the way, going back to that one, if you have any questions, contact Nicole Clark. Okay. Is this 80? Okay, I was going to say, is this 84 too? No, it's 82. So HB 82 requires LEAs to provide work emails to USB by October 1 annually. Okay. Last time we met, put out a little survey, and this is kind of the results of the survey, because we're like, who's got these files? We have assumptions. And I asked you, do you have your staff emails? And the answer is most of you said yes. 86% of you said yes. 13 of you said, I don't know, which, okay. And then just 2% of you said no when we asked you. And then we said, we went with some assumptions of where these emails are located. It says, do we reach out to your HR director? Is this the Utrecht submitter, who is you? The IT, team that's like above you or something? Is this your business administrator or something else? And you can see the spread. It's kind of, it's a quarter, third, it's kind of all over the place. So that slide didn't work. So I'll talk about the slide. It didn't transfer over correctly. Basically, what's going to happen is we will create a Qualtrics data collection tool where you will upload a CSV. I am going to email, or I will have someone on my team email this group saying, here is the link to upload this file. Either that's going to be you, or just share that link with the appropriate person, and they'll go in, enter in their information. And I apologize, this slide didn't work correctly, but basically that's the process that we're going to do. Is we'll be asking you. Now we have to have it by October 1, so we're going to submit this basically about the same time school is starting. Now, if you're going to say, but what if I hire a new teacher after I submit this file? The answer is, yeah, get it next year. Okay, that's fine. Just know the legislation said they want to be able to send out at least 3 times a year. If they request that file, that they can send it out to everyone. And then USB also could utilize that file and send it out like a mass email up to, but no more than 3 times a year. So that's the purpose of that. Just know that's the process. Again, we'll be asking for a CSV upload into Qualtrics for that. Question?
Yeah, is that for all staff? Is that just certified or that's
All-
like
So the question is, who's this for? All staff, certified staff, all staff? And when I say all staff, anyone you've got an email for who's working for you. I'm gonna say substitutes, if you pay the person and you give them an email, you give us the email. If you give substitutes emails, then send it to us. If you don't give substitutes emails and they just come in on whatever, then don't. So follow-up question, go ahead. So question, definition of staff. You generate an email for that individual and you pay them, or you don't pay them, you generate that email for them. Send it on. What's that?
Yeah, please.
Well, the question, student, you generate an email for that person and you pay them, a student employee, like the janitors, yeah. If you create an email for it and you pay them, send it to us. We're not that particular. And again, the question is, who, do I contractors, student employees? The answer is, if you create an email for them, not your student file email, that's your SIS student thing, not that one. Now, if you use that one for a student custodian, then yes, send me that one. But again, the concept for the legislature was vague enough where he said, to whoever you are employing, if they're paid but have no email, such as a substitute, don't send me anything on that. Does that help? Is that clear as mud? Okay, again, some of this, it is your responsibility. Some of it's going to be your HR. Some of it's going to be someone else in IT. It might be a business administrator. You told me it's all over the board. Okay, it's all over the board. Hey, wow, it worked this time. Anyway, we'll be sharing that email with you with one of the communications that will come from either from Nicole or from Callista, or Riley. Right? Where'd she go? By the way, if I'll just announce it, I think you guys know, but Callista is going to go on maternity leave very soon. So she'll be out for a couple months, but other than that. So, okay. School safety. Whew. HB 84 is huge, right? I'm looking at Dr. Willie Chan, and she's just consuming a whole bunch of her time and a whole bunch of other of our time. There needs to be a wearable panic alert for each classroom. I don't know if you guys are aware of this. There's so much behind this thing. We're working with multiple agencies. We just wanted to bring this out again. There is a task force, advisory board. They're working together for these things. Yeah, I'm just making sure you see this again. Part of this bill has the data elements that we talked about earlier. One is the early warning system. Again, it's being paid for up to a certain point, and I shared that, but there's also a public dashboard with school incident data that needs to be made available. Student incident data. Restate that. Student incident data needs to be reported. I know you guys know this. We do quality checks on it in our. This what? It's aggregate, yes. Yeah, we're not. Yeah, it's all in aggregate. That was the question. Are you talking aggregate? Yes. Okay, so the question was how aggregated. That is a fun debate that's going on right now. Now, so just sharing this last year, before this bill passed, last year, we put out a report and we had to give information over to, is it who? CCJJ? When, who'd you send that to? Someone. One of the court systems, we had to send them a report that had the disclosure avoidance techniques removed. So they got one all the way down to ones. It was pretty detailed. Now, the privacy team, sorry, I had pop up, reviewed that last year, and I mean, we put in less than 10, and that thing became almost useless. Like everything was like, it's just really small, just letting you know. Now, with this bill passing and with the examples of what Florida has done, so this is Parkland shooting that happened 2018, thank you. Was 2018 that happened? I was like further. Okay. Parkland shooting, one of the fathers, and I don't remember his name, but it's Safe School About Alex is their website. That is what the legislature have looked at as an example. And there's a number of states, so Florida, Virginia's in there. I don't remember, there's a couple of inside of there. They have a dashboard where it talks about school safety. It's intended for parents to look at it. It's aggregated at a fairly high level, but makes some people uncomfortable at the same time. So just letting you know, it's at what level, it's like we're working on the details. Now, again, HB 84 is really interesting because they gave, there's lots of requirements in here, 0 staff. And so we are in the process of figuring out exactly how we're going to do all this work. And again, multiple meetings of saying, how do we do this? But just be aware, there will be a report that's public facing. So if you submit, if people are not submitting that incident data, it will reflect in that public dashboard. When we say to what level is it, it's just like how many incidents are inside of there. No, it's going to have more detail than just, total counts. It will break it down. We're in the process of trying to figure out exactly to that level. At the same time, we have privacy looking at very, very closely to make sure that we're not disclosing information. At the same time, we do have a private reporting requirement will go into the courts, will go all the way down to students and such. So.
And just to add to that.
Okay, no, you gotta come up here or just make me repeat it.
It's called safeschools4alex.org, in case you want to
Yeah.
get a better look at what at least those other states are doing, what we may be implementing in.
Okay.
We're replicating in Utah.
So the website is safeschool4alex.org. If you want to look at it, that's what other states have done. Now that is an example of what the legislatures looked at, but we are also coming back to legislature saying, hey, you gave us 0 staff to do this. We're coming up with creative solutions, which is like, well, here's like, I'm going to ask David to do this for a month, and then we're going to not do something else. And this will be like the bare bone minimum approach. No one will be able to find it, but it'll be there versus, hey, we'll be submitting, money and information over to, safeschool4alex.org, and we'll be mapping their system. It's complicated because we're working through those details. Someone had a question.
If,
Okay.
if our incident data is going into our SIS currently, we just let USBE take it from there. And
Yes. Okay. So the question is, if I'm already reporting incident data and it's flowing into our SIS system and it's going into Utrex as expected, are we good? The answer is you're good. We take it from there. If you're getting your courtesy review and it's like, you have no incident data, pay attention to that. Because that we have to get that up to date. And there's a lot of people looking at this one right now. Hey, any follow-up questions with that? Everyone take a screenshot or memorize this. This is your work. USIMS will be helping with this in the future. This is yours. So SB 246, juvenile justice modification. So we got you a year to get this implemented. So July 1, 2025. An LEA shall digitally maintain the secure file described in this section. Basically, when a student has been arrested, between that point and the conclusion of the adjudication, information will come to you and you have to store it in your, I'm gonna say SIS system somewhere. You're gonna have to store that under lock and key. Meaning someone will have, your principal has to have information to that. Again, I recommend you go read the full bill. But basically, it's like the school official needs to be able to have access to see the court record of what's going on the student, and you have to maintain it for up to 1 year. And then once you hit that year mark, you can basically delete it, clear it out, whatever process it is on your system. But it has to be able to transfer to another LEA. So student achievement backpack, it's going to be this mechanism to transfer, I believe. I don't, at this point, believe we're using Utrex, which is I'm going to say it's a one-way door to transfer. I believe it's going to be an API connection. I'm looking at these two guys in the back, they're like, what? Just know it has to transfer to another LEA digitally. If the student moves, it has to move with the student with that record. Cliff, are you going to say anything about that? Okay, side conversations will be happening. Okay. So USB will figure out how do we help you transfer that? If so, USBE is not planning to store this information for you at the moment. Just know that at the moment, we're not planning to say, oh, we'll be a repository for you. That could change if the court system says, hey, we want to have a single pipeline in, and then maybe we push it out to you. But at this point, it's like just plan for 2025. You do need to have this information collected, saved. Principal would have access to see this as a student comes in, be able to see that information, and that's, it's pretty secure information, if you will, or tight, highly sensitive, and then it deletes after a year. Or if the student gets adjudicated, meaning they resolve that, then you can delete it out. So, question. If the student is arrested and they're your student, the court systems will send that to you. You're like, I'm not going to get that great point. And the question came out, say, hey, I deal with the tribal courts, and that's a different system. And you're absolutely right. I don't know how that overlays. I really don't, because tribal court, they're independent nation. I don't know if this live applies to them. Was that?
They're a nation within a nation.
Yeah. So I don't know if that applies. It's a great question. Ask your lawyers. Cliff, go ahead. Okay, and I'm gonna repeat what he just said, is USB has been working with the, who, court, which is the juvenile justice systems, where we have an API connection with SSID, so they can be modifying, updating, and that information we'll be sharing between. So again, it's trying to do the match of identity, so incident data, and then could transfer, but so there might be additional solutions. So I have an online one. I'll go to Steve. Okay.
Say that the court would send us this.
Will the court send us this information? The answer is yes, but we might be working another way through that as well, but plan on the courts contacting you with this information. However, if the courts send it, let's say, here's the hypothetical. The student is enrolled at Wasatch, because you're right there, I'm looking at you. And then the student jumps over, and we're gonna pick on Jordan because keeps raising his hand. And then they move to Jordan, and Wasatch has got to make sure that that information transfers over to Jordan and they get it. Okay,
So. Since data. Law about how that happens, or is it, it's up to the course figure out how to get us to data, that's figure out how to get it from the other LEA.
yes. So, as USIMS comes more operative, and there's potentials with Utrex too to help leverage this. Just know we, USBE, would not be storing the data in our own databases. We may be leveraging technology to help transfer and help you with this. I'm just letting you know is we don't have that in place. Those are for discussions as we move forward. I will, I go to a functional advisory meeting and I'm like, I got stuff. We got to do this. We got to do it. Anyway, I'm just letting you know is we don't have the solution in place at USBE. Make sure you're talking to your vendors and say, we need to be able to store this and save it. Right now, it just says that the courts will share. You guys will get it. And then if the student transfers, and by the way, these students do transfer fairly regular, it's got to go with them.
Within the state.
It's within the state, yes. We don't care about other states. Yes, we do, but we don't. We are not in a multi-state share. There's other states that deal with that. We don't. Hey. Anything else? Oh, I was gonna say, someone else gets to talk about this one. Dang it, that's me. Okay. All right, here's the fun discussion. We talked about this last month. So SB3 is like 1,000 pages long. If you care to read it, don't read it. It's 1,000 pages. If you go inside of there and just type in October, it will jump down to some language. And I shared this with you guys last month that says USB must submit before the 15th of October all enrollment data to the governor's office and to the legislative fiscal office for budgeting purposes. So here's October 2024 and the dates and how they fall out. Now, historically, you had 7th. And we got this and we knew they were talking about it and we're like, okay. And I had long discussions with multiple teams and groups and said, bare minimum to get this information audited, finalized, checked and submitted, we've got to look at our data submission date. Last month in Finance Committee, the adjustment to, okay, so this is R277484 referenced. So it's not actually board rule, it's a reference for the deadlines. That was updated to say it's the first Wednesday of October, the data has to be submitted. Now, here's our backup. I'm just sharing with you. It is Wednesday. We recognize that's the second day of the month. And we're like, yeah, probably everyone's going to be submitting. Yeah. Oh, that's so far away. I know. But then it changes. This is the only thing we could figure out in our current processing systems is how do we do this? Now, the legislature was I'm going to say the politically kind word.
You're saying
Dang it. Okay, keep coming up. The legislature were not very sympathetic for your time. How about that, for example? They just like, and we went back, told them, said, that's really, really hard because there are processes, there's audits that have to happen. This is financial. We've had people go in and ask for extensions because things have happened. We need to have a contingency plan. What's that going to be? And they're like, no, they should be having everything updated every single day and submitting it anyway, because that's in board rule anyway. And what's the point? I'm just sharing with you kind of the feedback. They were not very sympathetic of the time. And so they just put it in there. They're the legislature, they have the power to do that, and they voted on it and it passed. I'm just letting you know, that's the reality of it. So Wednesday is, that first Wednesday is the due date. Now, I'm ready to have a discussion and debate. Ready? Okay, Paul, go ahead. Okay. Okay, so feedback, Alpine, they're just a little district, so we don't really care about their accuracy anyway. They said they're not going to be accurate, so thank you.
So it seems like there could be some kind of middle ground, because even if you're looking at the first Wednesday of the month, sometimes that's going to be the second, sometimes that's going to be the sixth. So if there was some wiggle around that, if the first Wednesday falls on the first or the second, right, then you have until the one day after, the fourth or something like that, just to give a couple of days extra. Because there will be errors that will be introduced on the first, and it will take a day or two to resolve those.
I mean, this for us is huge.
Okay.
We just.
So if we're going to have a room-wide discussion, everyone online will not hear it. So let me just follow up on what was just said. So one, hey, the Wednesday, that's a USB control date. Is there a wiggle room between that USB control date and the 15th legislative mandated date? Can we have a wiggle room? Alpine said, we're not going to hit this. We're going to have errors. What district? You're Salt. Thank you, Salt Lake. Salt Lake's like, yeah, we want some middle ground wiggle room. Okay.
So. A lot of that cleanup, we have always used the school first to do their piece, and then we do our piece that can actually get it into the SIF and to tracks from the first to the seventh. So now we have one day to do that. Next year we have no days to do that. So, I mean.
Yeah, I know.
So that. What he was saying, I mean, I realize you look to say, what are our processes that we have to do? We have to audit and all this kind of stuff. What about the LEA? Exact same processes. So yeah, is there be some kind of wiggle room? I mean, this next year, you've given yourselves 8 days, you've given us 1.
I'm listening.
I mean,
Good.
there's got to be some amount of fairness in how we take this,
Okay.
makes sense.
Let me repeat what you're saying. Jordan, also a very small district. We don't really care about their numbers either. And saying, you've given us 1 day or you've got 8 days to do all this. Well, I'm being a little cynical, maybe a lot cynical there. No, I get it. So that's why we're having this discussion. So just so you know, it's like board rule, this is the presented deadline. Now we're having discussion on, okay, how do we deal with this insane schedule? Cliff's raised his hands as well. Cliff, go ahead.
That's pretty cool. Put the pressure on her. And then we already.
Hang on, we can't have a room debate. It's got to translate to the mic. Okay, so Cliff said, hey, I'm sympathetic. He says, but there's some merit in this discussion with those timeframes, saying when the courtesy review happens, don't. Again, Jordan, you're just teeny. You only got like 10 kids, so he's laughing. Anyway, so when the courtesy reviews happen, says those errors have to be addressed very quickly. Don't delay. Now, I know the rebuttal, but go ahead, say the rebuttal. And then we got an online question.
They have kids walking into their office, interrupting them all the time. It's not that we're waiting the last minute, it's that it takes that time to do it. There is no last minute. We are pushing them from the beginning.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Don't mean to be
Okay, taking all the emotions out of what Steve just said, is the secretaries are doing their darndest to get this done, but they're very, very busy people, and they're not just sitting there wasting their time not doing this work. They're very busy, is what you're saying. Online, what do we have?
Saying that they'd rather not have a moving target because that date does move, so they want to settle on like October 4th as a compromise date.
Okay, so on the conversation was, again, sharing with everyone online, October maybe 4th, let's not have a moving date. It's like maybe that Friday or something like that. That I'm just sharing. I think I captured that one. I think. Other comments online? Not that. Be the 4th. Be a 4th, and then it's on a Saturday or Sunday, and then you have to deal with that. But I understand the concept. After the fact, yeah. So conversation, Calista said, well, she's worried about all the manual updates after the fact of corrections if we don't have it correct here. Go ahead.
So I just don't. Wednesday. That year only needed 5 days to do their work. So why are we not just, why do they need 8 this year? Or 7 this year, or 6 this year? What is that? 3rd year.
Okay, and the question is, why are you choosing, if you will, that first Wednesday, not setting it on a date? And I'll come back to that one. I will answer.
I have 2 issues. Second, for example, in 2025, when it's first, we want an accurate count of all students on October 1st. We have students moving into our district on October 1st, which means the data that we submit on October 1st, that's due October 1st, we have to assume that the secretaries putting it in have it completely accurate. So to have no time to change, adjust, or fix it will invite probability of errors.
Okay.
On the second, you have 24 hours, take care of it. The last October submission that I did took approximately 8.5 hours to submit each time, in which I hoped and prayed that nobody touched it. So that is, I'm concerned about infrastructure being able to handle that type of quick turnaround if all of us are having to get onto it.
Okay, so who? Weber, okay. All right, so Nebo said, again, small district. If it's happening, if we got people coming in on the 1st, and I have to submit on the 1st, it's really hard to make sure, hey, all the data are accurate on the 1st. What's going to happen here? And Weber School District seconded that, saying, yes, we've got issues. Hey, okay, online. Oh, yes. will the systems, Cliff? Will the systems be able to handle this? Hey, when you have, it takes 8 hours, 20 hours for for these things to process through, what then? These are great questions. Okay, wait. Yeah. Okay, so there's another comment, Cliff. I know. So Calissa commented saying something's got to change. We've never had everyone submitting on the last day. Next year's on the first. What's that going to look like? Let me just throw out another issue. And it has nothing to do with you or with us. It has to do with the financial component that the governor and the legislature have to do. And when we say, well, what about inaccurate data and corrections? Sharing with the whole group. The legislature, when they wrote this, were single-minded on count, and that's it. The conversation says, we have so much coming in and so much that we're relying upon the October 1. It's not just the count of noses in a school. They said, don't care. Let's just count. So they weren't interested in making sure the rest of the data were all correct. They just want to have an accurate count on that day, which was an interesting, frustrating conversation. So I'm just sharing that with you. And then the follow-up conversation was, what if it's off? Oh, you can just fix it in the mid-year update. It's like, oh, that doesn't work. Okay, online question. Okay, so follow-up question is, if they only care about the count, can we give that just with our nightly submissions process? Follow up, okay.
And those few days before, we would have to assume that all that entry is correct. If there's a data element off, that gets severe warning, we lose that student. I'm sort of wondering if we can maybe split the difference.
Well, that's why we're here. That's why we're having this conversation. So the comment was Alpine has 10 students with some more zeros behind that they register every year. And it's like, this is a huge process. Is there a way that we could split the difference between the 15th and the basically that first Wednesday? So let me go back to why first Wednesday was discussed. Federal government on their submission process went to, here's your deadline, we don't care. Model. Oh, I don't know. They've been doing that for a very, very long time. But then they just changed it this last year on us saying, here is the new updated submission. We don't care. You can't miss this. And by the way, all of your data have to be accurate on that day of that submission. And so we had a discussion about the concept of, instead of having a floating day, because when we say a floating day, let me restate that. Instead of having a set day, because we're constantly running into the issue of on the 7th, on the weekend, when you get it, so on and so forth, and that getting pushed way back. So this last year, by the way, on our October 1 data submission, we missed it. We went a week and a half before we could finalize it. And then it wasn't until about the 23rd, 24th, 25th, somewhere in there that we could get it to the legislature for numbers. We just put it off. So we don't have it because we missed it. Our current daily or current structure is we can't finalize until everyone's in. So just sharing that with the group, and it's like our deadline has to be pushed a little bit closer because again, it's working with the processes. The IT team has to take it through the ops. They need the weekend. They have to have this on. Oh, wait. They have to, no. Okay. Sorry, they have to have it on that Friday. It needs to be done so they can run their transactions, ETLs, all of that over the weekend where people aren't touching the database. So we can come back in on Monday. They have to have that weekend for that process. So just letting you know, that's their whole process system. That's current architecture. October 1 is coming up so fast, we can't change that current architecture structure, just letting you know. In the future, there might be ability to adjust that. In addition, USIMS is coming along. That should speed up the process. Can we split the difference? Well, this is why we're here having this discussion. Backup plan. Well, if you went till that Thursday, does that work? If we go to Friday, what's the consequences? Go ahead.
It's not the day of the week, it's the amount of time between the count date and the finalization.
Okay.
Right, so if you go to the Friday, this year, that's fine, but when the first Friday ends up being on the second or the first, then we're having the same.
Same issues, yeah.
So it's we need time between the count date and when we finalize the data to clean up all the, clean up the data. Make sure that the data that we finalize is accurate as of that count.
Okay, let me ask you.
On the count
Right.
date,
Okay, so the comment is we need some time between the final, that October 1 and the date to submit. We need some time. So here's the question to the group. How many days do you need? And if you're just going to tell me 7, okay, we're back to that discussion, but how many days do you need? Go ahead, Jared. So there needs to be a week in between when you submit. Was that? No, I'm for everything. For everything.
Well, for your.
They finalize, everyone's done, everyone's. There's a week process of both ops, our team, and then final promotion pushes. Well, no, we don't need a week, but there needs to be a week for everyone. Well, for this year. That's why we're having this discussion. So we can just say, well, we're gonna go back to the 7th, but then it moves around. However, let me just put in here right now, we have an extension process when we miss the 7th. There has not been a year in the last, I want to say 5 years that we've not had an extension. Has there? No. Yeah, go ahead.
I could be wrong, but my understanding is it's like there's hard tech. It's the hardware just fails on us, the software fails on us. That it's not that, oh, we weren't able to get it done. That's gonna be the kind of extensions we're wanting. It's like, we didn't have enough time, the data's wrong, we know it's wrong, we need some more time to fix it.
Versus, yeah.
To do that,
Okay, so I'm sorry, we're forgetting to communicate. Technical difficulties, yeah. Okay, so I'm not speaking through this conversation. This is kind of hard. And I think we only gave myself 20 minutes for this and we're having fun here. So, okay, wait, so Callista said I asked the question, how many October ones had an extension? I said in the last 5 years, like all of them. She said, well, maybe it wasn't all of them, but every year we have them. Every single year have them. Why? Typically, it's a technical issue that someone has run into, or it's just like, hey, this is not going to happen. That's not fully true. There's a lot of times where it's like we have to go back and update information after the fact after it's submitted. That's a different type of extension, or that's a financial correction that we have to do inside of there. Okay, Steve said something about if I have 7 days, I can get it done. Yeah,
USBE and the LEA. I realize something's gotta give, the seventh is gonna work. What I'm saying is we need more time than 1 day. So, okay, we can't have to the seventh, maybe the fourth, maybe, I mean, we need to come up with something better than this floating day that's gonna give us anywhere from 0 to 6 days to do, you know?
okay.
And that's calendar day, that's not working days, right? So weekends come in, so that needs to be taken into consideration.
Okay, so let me throw out, okay, sorry. Steve just said I need 7 working days.
No.
You've had 7, wait, okay, so let me just restate what you said is I need more time than just 1 day or 2 days to work on this. Let's figure this out. Here's my follow-up question, then I'll call to Paul. What happens on weekends? If we have a deadline, are you guys working or are you saying, you know, I need working days, weekends, just throw them out? Because no one works over weekends, and I'm not criticizing anyone. I'm just saying that I want to know what your style, maybe it's everyone does whatever. When some people are like, we crunch all the way through the weekend, we make it available. Do we as a group say, take the weekends off totally as they are not working days? And we just agree to say, just look at the weekends, non-working days, no one's doing anything. Is that a fair concept, or are you guys like, no, that's not how we operate? I mean, Salt Lake, go ahead. He's like, I work on fine. Okay. But I want just generally, that's a concept I want to just say, make sure that policymakers and decisions say weekends are non-working. I understand people work. I'm just saying we should probably stick with that concept and make sure the legislature also understand there's a weekend there. People aren't working on Saturday and Sunday. Don't expect them to, even though they may be, and I'm not going to say maybe, I'm just saying that's the concept, right? So when we start talking about days, weekends are out, we're not going to add those in. Okay with that statement? Yay, we got one agreement. Okay, Paul, go ahead. Okay. So 4 days after the cutoff. Okay, who said I agree? Okay, Twella, thank you. Comment online. We're not keeping up with the comments. Sorry, online people. October 1st plus 4 work days. Did someone raise their hand back there? Jared? He's like, but we work weekends. Okay. So October 1st plus 4 days, which basically puts you on the 5th.
That
Ish.
can end up being the 7th if October 1 falls,
Yeah.
including a weekend. If it was plus 3 days, then that'd be the 6th, the latest. Is that too close?
I don't know. This is the debate. Steve's over there like, yeah, but 4 days, okay?
One. So if we ask you the same question, what would your answer be? So every district the last LEA hits the finalize button on day X. How many days do USBE?
Okay. 5 days.
I'll just say I've got it.
We do. Typically, we do 5 days.
That weekend you were- Is that
No.
weekend? The days next.
Okay. So those 5 days and just sharing, 5 days typically it does include the weekend, but I don't count those 2 days. When I say 5 days, because what it is the expectation okay, so we have best working environment is the data come in, goes over the weekend, the machines do all the processing, Monday morning, data and statistics comes in, we do an audit, we finish the audit on Monday, we let the IT team know the audit is complete, they push it to promotion on Tuesday, we're done, we submit it. Yay, that always happens, not. I'm just letting you know, we got the same issue, we've got 5 working days that we have to work with it as well. So can we constrict that 5 working days? Well, this is why we're having this discussion and Jared's in the room as well. Go ahead. No. ETL push to, so by the way, we don't give the data off to anyone else until it's in a production database, meaning it is finalized. We can push it earlier out of prod or out of dev, but people don't like that. Because like, no, that's not right. No, I mean, could I pull it on out of dev? Yes. Is that bad practice? You tell me. Yes. Your bet.
If you notify your secretaries upfront that we understand that they're getting interrupted, and things like that. However, this year and moving forward, our day for submission is going to be less. Can you encourage them to start their reviews a little bit earlier, as well as be a little bit more diligent in their entry process and review process? Because I think we're saying it's this big elephant and we're trying to take all these sides of the elephant. But if we split the elephant up a little bit and put some of it back on secretaries and encourage them and let them know, hey, this is not just coming from us. This is the legislature, this is USBE, this is, we don't have 7 days like we have in the past. So we've got to start from the very beginning. And I'm realizing that if we pass this through to our secretaries and explain this, then they are a little bit, sometimes they get into just a quick tap, well, maybe they need to set that entry aside for 5 minutes until it's a little bit quieter or whatever. And I realize secretaries do multiple tasks at a time. But I think we're trying to take on too much and not pushing some of that back to the origination.
Okay. So let me say what she said through the mic. Succinctly. We need to have a conversation with our secretaries and level this out, saying it's not just the IT teams, it's secretaries, it's IT teams, and it's USBE all have to adjust to get this to work right. And so the question that she's posing is that doable for every LEA to talk with those who are actually entering the information, saying this has got to be a little bit tighter. We've got to focus on, have to have better accuracy on our information. Plus the timeline has been upped. We're all sharing. Is that a conversation that you can have, or will the secretaries take out torches and pitchforks and run you out? Just kind of throw it out. Okay, Jared, go. Okay, so, and Jared said, make sure you let leaderships know that secretaries have a very, very important job and they shouldn't be doing principal's job either. I'm just being cynical. Okay, Cliff, go ahead. Yeah, that's not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen. I mean, great concept, not gonna happen. Sorry, I didn't. The concept just sharing is, hey, can we tell the parents, plan ahead? The answer, no, we can't. Okay, I'm back.
How did that?
We don't pay them. You're like, how do I, yeah, the question was, is, hey, wait a minute, if I got someone come from out of state and I do an SSID submission and I've got 6 fatal errors, how does that even work if I don't have time? And you're absolutely right. Again, we recognize this is why we've had the discussion. Now, this is what we're gonna do. Hopefully this is agreeable, is I'm going to tell Jared, who's in the back of the room, because he's right there, when the board meets and they discuss and do this, that we do a modification or adjustment. Because you'll be there and I won't. I'll be in DC. I'm sorry. That's why I'm telling you, because I gotta be at that other conference. That we tell the board, because there's flexibility. Okay, and this is not a hard thing. Then this is all around saying, okay, we're looking at this date. First Wednesday is not going to work. What we're going to say is day of submission, which is the 1st. 3, 4, 3, plus 4 days. Oh. So we're going from the 7th to the 5th. According to what Riley just said, says we're just going to take 2 days off and bring it down 2 days.
What?
What? So it's right now, it's the 7th. The proposal in the board modification is the first Wednesday. The change or the modification would be, well, it's not going to be the first Wednesday, it's going to be the 5th, unless it's a weekend and it's the following Monday. Everyone's smiling and happy. They're not happy, but it's better. Okay. This year it is the exact same deadline, we understand. But
I guess in that case, it puts the pressure this year on USBE instead of on the other.
it does put the pressure. Now, with that said, part of the sharing with the group, and this has got to be with everyone, is extensions are non-existence. They can't, if you fail, I don't know what the consequences are going to be. If you, I'm going to give a hypothetical. Let's say the state went to a new SIS. Okay, the state buys a new SIS and it's the deadline and we all fail. We just won't get paid. I don't know. If there's a transition or something's going on, the communication has to be upfront, way in advance. So you need to have your basic, your radars, detector warnings on saying, do I see an issue? Don't wait until October 1 to start saying I've got an issue, or a week before, whatever. It is basically it's our school year. Is everything submitting? Is everything going in as expected? Are we fixing our errors? I know you are. I'm just saying that has got to be understood is we can't miss because an LEA stopped the whole process, because that's what happens right now. When it doesn't matter the size of the LEA, if it's Alpine or if it's, is Tintic the smallest? I think a charter school might be smaller than Tintic. There's Daggett, are you? Okay. Doesn't matter if you're Alpine or you went to River. Either one right now, if you ask for extension, it stops the whole train. Just letting you guys know. We can't. So question, Paul. You bet.
Work with our school as early as possible. Every single day we send out automated, ours is all automated. Fix these errors, fix these errors, fix these errors. And we're working so diligently with our secretaries as quickly as possible. So I hope that's understood. We really are not waiting to first to start fixing errors.
Yeah.
We're doing this early.
We say that, I say it, and when I say we, I don't like, I will say cynically, oh, your secretaries are just, I know. And okay, so let me just repeat what Paul said. It says, hey, recognize our secretaries are actually working really hard, and we're working really hard to communicate this. And the answer is, we know, we really do know. You guys are doing fabulous work. This is not small, light, easy things. We know that. This is hard, complicated. You know, it's a system, it's process that we just have to run through. So thank you. I went so over. We scheduled 20 minutes. I think it was an hour. Where are we at? How long have we been standing up here? Lunch is at 12. So everyone else, you have to speak really fast. They won't care. They'll just fall asleep. Just kidding. I'm being cynical again. So with that said, I will talk with Jared. We'll make a modification for the board suggestion, which will be on the 5th. Again, no extensions. Just understand that. Now, when we run into the, wait, I need an extension road or, problem, I don't know. That's, again, legislature said, you have to give it to me. And they said, we don't care if they don't have it on that date. And it's like, really? Okay. Go ahead.
Friday the 15th, but like that's gonna happen. You know, he gets fired.
I'm going to jail and breaking the law. I don't, the answer is, I don't know, because I haven't, I've had the flexibility in the past to tell them when they're going to get it. They flipped that. I don't know. In the past, we've said, you'll get it that day. And they really complain.
Aaron, we'll visit you in jail.
Thank you. You might be in there with me. So the joke was, hey, we'll come visit you in jail if you get arrested. It's like, well, you'll be there with me probably. Like, Anyway, I don't know what will happen because they flipped it. Because in the past, I've been able to go to finance department and they've communicated up to legislature, say, you will wait until this date. We kind of have that authority, or that, if you will, that influence, and they took that away. So what will happen? I don't know. Jared, what's going to happen if we can't do that? Yeah.
For the LEAs. Don't forget that that's what he said.
Financial implications to the LEAs. If you, yeah.
And if the camera is not accurate, don't get all of our students, there will guarantee be funding.
Yes.
2 months.
Yes. Sorry, I'll speak that louder. Not mine. Okay, so what we just said is actually, what is the implications if you're asking for extension, have in there, this is what happened, ultimately is that count will not go to the governor and legislature. And there will probably be a financial impact. And who does that go to? It goes to you, the LEA, and ultimately to the kid. And if you do that sob story to the legislature, maybe they'll change things. Like, you're taking money away from, you know, Sally and John because your accountants want to have timely and accurate data. Won't change anything. So anyway, that's just. Just breathe. We'll make the modification. Thank you for the discussion. It went way longer, but I knew it needed to happen. For those old timers, isn't this fun? We used to do 2 days of this conference and argue like the whole 2 days. We only did it for an hour and a half or so. Anyway, with that said, okay, I don't know who's up next. That is Tammy. Tammy, thank you for waiting so long. Yes. Why? For those online, I'm closing out the meeting and I'll come back. Hang on. So stop sharing. Oh, wait. Who's sharing this screen? I'm trying to. Hang on. I'm trying to figure it out.
Put the three lines.
Oh, yeah.
Where?
Well, dots in that pop-up.
Sorry, technical difficulty. No one's ever had this before. Where? Hang on. Let me. There, leave. There, that's what's. Not that one. Cancel. What am I doing? Here.
Turn off notifications.
Hopefully that solves it. Okay. Tammy. Hopefully you're here.
I am here.
You're here. I'm sorry. This is my life, like your life, or that one? Notification settings.
Or you can,
It says on, but there we go.
or you could put Teams and do not disturb.
Okay, thank you. Tammy, let's see. Do I need to share my screen now? Yes, I do. Sorry, we're trying. There we go. Share. Go to slides. Does anyone know how to minimize that? Okay, you're up, Tammy.
Okay, hi, I'm Tammy Walker, and I'm going to be talking about the summer EBT program for school year 2025. I've mentioned before in some of our meetings, the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2023 authorized a permanent nationwide summer electronic benefit transfer program. We refer to it as either summer EBT or SEBT, and that was authorized to begin in 2024. Utah state funding was approved for summer of 2025. So that will be when we will be starting to participate in SEBT. CNP or child nutrition programs and Department of Workforce Services will be working together with you, the LEAs, to collect data for students eligible for summer EBT. We anticipate collecting data the beginning of May of 2025, and that will be for the summer 2025 issuance. And we estimate we'll be able to issue benefits to about 160,000 students in 2025. That's about what we issued for PBT, pandemic EBT, a couple of years ago in the summer. Can you go to the next slide, please? Summer EBT data sharing opt-out. So when we brought this program to the Board of Education, they asked us to allow parents that are submitting free and reduced price income applications for school meals. They asked us to allow the parents to opt out of sharing their data with DWS. And we only share the data with DWS for summer EBT, but we have to provide that opt-out option to parents because of the data sharing issue. Our department, CMP, it will be providing this school year 24-25 free and reduced price meal applications to the food service directors next month, probably in a couple of weeks. And this application, you can the application needs to be made available to parents for the school year 24-25, and that can be either online or paper. Just as a reminder, the school year is beginning July 1st. So beginning July 1st, these applications need to have this opt-out checkbox for the parents to allow them to opt out sharing information to DWS for the summer EBT program. Households that have selected that opt-out will not be issued SEBT benefits through the data sharing agreement. And if they decide later that they want to participate in SEBT, they will have to apply separately with DWS to get those benefits. So beginning
Tammy,
July.
let's stop you for just a second.
Okay.
Did everyone get that? Because I know they're still talking about other stuff. Go ahead, Steve.
What the new tracks will we just track our own and we don't submit those people?
So the question is, how do we get these opt-outs to USBE? The answer is it's coming. We're going to show you in the slide. Great question. Okay, thank you. And Tammy, I'm being mean as a presenter because everyone was like talking about something else. Anyway, okay, continue.
Okay.
Not trying to be
So
mean.
the last point on this slide is that the LEAs need to have the ability to track students that have opted out of the SEBT data sharing. Now, let me just say, we don't anticipate that there will be very many households that will opt out because if they opt out, they don't get the SEBT benefit, which is $120 for the summer, and that for that amount could increase, but that's the base amount. And so they're basically saying no to the money, but if parents do have if they're hesitant to share government with what they consider to be to share data with what they consider to be the federal government or a federal government agency, then they have to have that ability to opt out. So we don't anticipate there being very many, but it could be. And so you have to be able to track any parents that say, no, don't share my data. Okay, the next slide. So we are anticipated new data elements on the S1 record beginning May of 2025. And we're still discussing with Aaron and his team the specifications and exactly what these data elements are. We just wanted to help you be aware. There will be, we hope, there should be a new data element, which is the DWS summer EBT opt-out. That would be a yes or no question. There will also be other new data elements, start date of free reduced eligibility for the student for this current school year, end date of free reduced eligibility for the current school year. And that business rule actually applies to both start date and end date. It says, do not include students eligible for during the 30-day carryover. at the beginning of the school year, and then they're dropped to full pay status. So this eligibility start date and end date has to be when they were determined eligible during the school year, not a carryover from the previous year. And then also the free reduced eligibility source. And if you're asking where this information is, your food service directors have that information. There's a listing of SNAP Direct Cert, SNAP application, TANF Direct Cert, TANF application, Medicaid, state foster, that means foster students that are in state custody, FDPIR. An acronym we use HMR, which is the homeless migrant runaway, and that data usually comes from a specific liaison that your LEA has with the state, and then income application. Should I go ahead and take a look? There's a
Let me-
question okay.
Is there an online question?
There's a question in the chat. Should I wait till the end?
Yeah, let's do. Let me just follow up on this information, because I have a question. It's like, well, we have homeless, we have migrant, we have runaway, we have this other information. Are you expecting us to get it from other systems and put it in there? And the answer was from CNP, no. This is coming directly from the lunch program people. So they'll be entering it. So we're not going to be correlating or trying to pull it from other systems to populate it. You'll have a list. Go ahead, Steve.
So you're saying that you try.
This will be this will be Utrecht's. This is an updates to the file specs. So let me restate what I said. It may be better. So for example, I said, hey, we're looking at SNAP. We're looking at, is this a direct certification? Hey, we know the system did it automatically, or this came from an application. Do you want our systems to automatically define this for you? And we just put in SNAP, for example. And the answer is no. The lunch providing services will have this information and they will enter it. We're not going to be taking our systems and trying to pre-populate things. So for example, migrant, you get migrant data. We're not using the migrant flag to bring in here and say that was a direct certification from a migrant. Or the lunch program is going to say, this is a migrant applicant.
You're not.
Correct, we're not. And this will be a new Utrecht's file submission. Does that make sense? Okay, thanks, Sammy.
Hey, Aaron, sorry, I may not understand what you're saying. When you say the lunch program will be filling out that information, I will say the food service directors of each LEA will have
Yes.
the eligibility source. And so that information either needs to come from the food service module of the SIS, or I'm not sure where you're asking the LEAs to gather that data other than the food service module. It's not something that CMP is going to be filling out. Maybe I misunderstood what you were
Correct.
saying, Aaron.
No, this is just following up with. Yes, when I say it's coming from your food module or for that program, that's where it's coming from. Okay.
Okay, but let's go ahead and finish, and then I know that there's a question, but I think I'm almost finished. Okay, so these are requested data elements for summer EBT beginning in May of 2025. They aren't mandatory because these elements can't be mandatory in Utrecht's. They can't be required. However, we need them in order to issue SEBT benefits. So one of those is the student mailing address. If it's different from the physical address, we will be mailing out the summer EBT cards to the address provided. And so if it is not the mailing address, that student won't receive their card and won't be able to use the benefits. Also parent, guardian, first and last name. Again, this is not a required field in UTREX, but DWS can only issue summer EBT cards to parent or guardian of each eligible student. And so that is something that we need for the summer EBT program. And we're also looking to make a distinction between economically disadvantaged and students that are free and reduced priced eligible due to the National School Lunch Program guidelines. I think that we had a discussion of adding a free and reduced and then a yes and no for economically disadvantaged. So these are the changes that we're anticipating before, not this May, but May of 2025, because we are anticipating participating in summer EBT for summer of 2025. And I see there's a question from Audie. Is she asks, I always ask this question, but what about CEP and provision schools that do not have applications? How does that affect the opt-out, or does it at all? And I should have put this on the slides. DWS has told us that we cannot share data for CEP or provision schools. So that means any student that is enrolled in a CEP or provision school will have to submit an SEBT application with DWS directly for summer EBT benefits. So they will not be part of our data sharing at all. They have to go in, and there's going to have to be a different method for them to apply for summer EBT. They will not be automatically given benefits like they were in for pandemic EBT. So they're going to have to be applying separately. We will be issuing information. The CNP and DWS will be issuing information when the SEBT application is set up on the DWS website.
Any questions?
Is there summer EBT for 24?
No. So the question, Tammy, I don't know if you're, is there a summer EBT for 24? And I said, no.
No, the legislature did not pass funding for 2024. So we will not be able to participate until 2025.
And by the way, Cliff is worked out a way where he's just going to pull from your submissions. He'll set up a file, just, what are you calling that, Cliff? You'll just keep building throughout the year from your file submissions. And then when we get to May 2025, he'll take that file, grab it, pass it on. So you don't have to worry other than have correct information in it. So when I say correct information submitted by UTREX and we get it. Go ahead, Cliff. Okay, so sharing what Cliff just said to group online. We're asking for a start date and end date for eligibility because we have to look at the entire year, calendar year of the student, not just the school year. So that's why that's being required. Okay, all right, thank you.
And Calista, that's a good idea. I can include another slide with CEP and provision students, and in all of the documentation that CNP sends out, we will make it very clear that CEP and provision schools have to go, or students have to go and apply separately on the DWS website.
Okay.
I just want to send that info about CP.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry we're so far behind.
Yeah.
You've got 20 minutes. Let's
Oh,
go.
God.
15.
I'll just say this first, even though Riley's presenting.
So we're short on time and we recognize that this next segment of training is meant to be a basic UTREX training, which is always good review for everyone, but if there are those who feel that they don't want to stay on for the whole part of this, feel free to drop off or leave the room. And that being said, we'll just jump in to time.
Hi, I'm Riley, and I will be approaching this as like a raising awareness if you don't know these things exist, not as a training since we don't have time for that. So just as an intro, in Data Gateway, when you log in, you can get to the UTREX overview screen. You have to use your account. You click on the UTREX tab, you get to the UTREX overview. If you don't know this exists, I really hope you're now learning that it exists. This is what it will look like for you as an LEA. There's a few different boxes that are important, such as where you go to finalize your data, when your collection have been received by the state. There's some timestamps that are important. There's some files you can download from the UTREX overview screen, like your examined data file and the validation error reports. For the validation errors, again, these will be sent out to you. So just know that fatal errors block records from getting into UTREX, and they need to be fixed. There's some warnings that become fatal errors, usually at the end of the school year, and most warnings will only ever be warnings. If you know everything's right, you can ignore those warnings. There's two different levels of warnings and errors. Level ones are ones that are occurring within your LEA, and level two typically involve another LEA. And then to download your validation errors, click on that validation errors in the top right corner. You'll get them. Level ones will be in multiple tabs depending on the error code or ID, like student or student list. And then level two are in the level two errors tab on the far right. And you could scroll all the way over to see the other LEA that's involved. This is what one of the tabs will look like. There's a is valid column. One means that the record is valid, it's going to get through. 0 means that it's going to be blocked by a fatal error on the record. And then 2 means it'll be blocked by a higher level record that has a fatal error. And there's a hierarchy of the records and validations. I'm not going to go through them, but essentially, like if, for instance, there's a fatal error on a district record, then none of the student records are going to be blocked, or all the actually all the other records are going to be blocked. Passing it on.
Hi, everybody. I'm Stephanie Su. I'm going to go over the exam data files and also the UTREX reports in a really fast pace. So here we go. So about how to use the exam data file, you can download it from the UTREX overview on Data Gateway website. And as the screenshot shows, you can see there is the Excel file icon next to the exam data. So that icon would be the red spot. You click on that, you can download the exam data file. And then after downloaded, you can see there is a screenshot for the tabs in the exam data file. So those tabs are supposed to be matched up with the record types in UTREX specs. So here is the overview of UTREX specs. So the table is supposed to be one-to-one relationship. Sometimes there are some exceptions. In this case, you know, the incident student record listed in the UTREX not showing up in the exam data file tabs. That's mainly because at that specific time you download the exam data file, those data were not available. And another exception is the student record as one listed in the UTREX specs overview here, actually corresponding to 2 tabs in the exam data file. One is student, the other is student list. So you can find more information on reviewing the UTREX specs. All right, here is the practice pop-up quiz, but due to the time issue, we're gonna make it as a take-home assignment, so you can just try it offline. Okay, let's go overview. Let's go over the UTREX reports. There are several places, spots that you can download the reports. Go to the UTREX report page through the UTREX overview on Data Gateway. Here are some spots that we already highlighted. Oops, sorry. So you can just try yourself. And then there is another link, which is report for finalized data in the finalized box. So that will link you to the archived reports page. Those reports are updated on a delayed timeline. So they're usually available months later after you finalize your data in October, December, and July. So that's why we encourage you guys to download those reports right after you finalize them. Okay, here is the list of what reports you can see on the UTREX report page. Something we may want to pay attention is the reports listed under the October, December year end. They are relevant and customized to the specific finalized period. But they're not only relevant to the specific finalized period because they use the live data, which means they got updated with each submission. If you submit it daily, you will get updates daily. So the archive reports, we already talked about that. From the name, we can understand that reflect the data that you finalized in previous years for the specific finalized period. There are some reports under the year round. So we use those to keep tracking of the important data items. They are useful year round, but there are something we may want to pay attention is the graduation rate just to get updated 3 times a year, which means the October, December, and July. Okay, we're ready to go right there. So here is there are several data formats. You can download it, the UTREX report. You can download it as PDF for your own reference or provide to auditor. Also, the CSV and Excel file, they're very useful if you want, filter and sorting student level data, especially when you have the fatal error and warnings. You really want to get into the student level data, you go there, download the CSV or Excel file. There are some differences between the data formats. PDFs usually have the aggregate data only at LEA or school level. Sometimes they have a mix of student data as well, but the CSV and Excel file, they always have student level data. They also have a few that indicates if the record is in totals or not. So that'll be all. Please set your thought.
All right, and also we apologize that we did have to go fast through this. So if you are a newer UTREX submitter, you can always contact the 3 of us after this meeting if you want more in-depth explanation because we're going fast. We'll also send out all these slides. So I'm gonna go quickly as well, and I'll be just covering our team's role during the finalized submission periods and also what LEAs are expected to do. Hopefully this isn't a surprise for those that are not new, but all LEAs should be collecting data daily in their SIS. We strongly encourage you prior to the school year starting to make sure and set up scheduled collections. And we do send out emails around that beginning of your period if we notice that your LEA does not have a scheduled collection set up. A lot of the time it's just because people forget or there may be a technical issue, but once it's scheduled, then you don't have to worry about submitting daily. It is in board rule that daily collections should be submitted to UTREX daily as well. And so there's the board rule for your reference. The purpose of that, oops, sorry. I don't know what's going on with the slides. Okay, here we go. The purpose of the daily collection is not just because it's in board rule, but it's because we want accurate and timely data. Meaning Stephanie just showed you, we have a slew of live UTREX reports. And so if for some reason your LEA due to technical issues or just for whatever reason isn't submitting, and it's been a couple weeks or whatever it is, those reports become outdated. And so if at any time the state pulls data, your data is no longer up to date and could in some cases, if you had a bad submission, reflect bad data. So we do reach out if we see that an LEA hasn't submitted in a while. It will also notify you on the overview that you have a stale submission. Usually that means you've lapsed a couple weeks. Cliff has been really good recently about contacting LEAs, even if it's been a day. So just know that we're trying to keep the data flowing in daily, also because it helps if you're reviewing errors and warnings daily rather than after a month or only 3 times a year. Okay. The 3 finalized deadlines. So we know October was a big topic today. So I put a question mark in there because we're still settling that for this next year. In the past, recent years, we had set all the deadlines to be on the 7th, just to keep it easier to keep that one date in your head, unless that falls on a weekend or holiday. In the past, they used to be different dates. So it's changed over time. Currently, December and July are still the 7th, and October is to be determined. It is on that date by 5 p.m. And please just make sure that if it's not yourself, or if you're going to be on vacation, that there is somebody that has the role in Data Gateway that can submit the finalized submission. They're available, not just on that day, but even in the days following, because there's oftentimes when our team will be looking through the data and will notice something, or, you know, another data steward will notice something that affects funding, and we have to contact you. So if you finalize and then go on vacation and think everything's good, we won't be able to get a hold of you. And in those cases, we will need you to resubmit and refinalize. So just please make sure that that window of time, someone is available both before and after the deadline. Generally, we open the finalizer. At year end, it's for sure weeks in advance of the deadline. It's been about 2 weeks. October is changing. In the past, it's been about a week, in December about a week. But we'll let you know for this upcoming October if that window is going to be longer. I'm not going to go through all these. These are general tips on when you're actually finalizing and how to know that you're ready. And so we will send all of this out. I will just say that our team provides the courtesy data review every submission to every LEA, and LEAs can request more than one data review. Even if you don't request it, we'll send it. It's a good way for you to be alerted to things that we caught. They may or may not be wrong. We're just asking that you look at those things, and again, do your own review, because we can't guarantee that we catch everything. So we will do those courtesy data reviews for this upcoming year-end submission. We're planning to send those out sort of mid-May, so before the last day of school, but we want to time it right as well, because we don't want, there's some fields we look at, like membership being at 180 days, and if we do it too early, then it won't be helpful. Because like Riley said, there's some validations that don't trigger until the last day of school. So it will be around that last week of school that we'll send those out, and we'll prioritize schools that finish first. That way, those schools can get a jump on things, and then their data will also, all the validations should be triggering at that point. You can always email us if you have a request to get it done earlier than later, but we generally finish the reviews in about a week, maybe a little over a week's time. And then, like I said, between May and July, you can keep requesting additional reviews, and we're happy to do that. One important note on this is we email these out, and so if we don't have valid contact info for your LEA, meaning like the last person that finalized in December has left, it's not going to go to the right person. So we really need LEAs that have changeover in personnel to notify us. That way we're sending it to the right person. Here's an example. Those of you that have been doing this in the past know what these look like, but for those that are newer, the review letter has 2 sections. The top items are things that we say are must respond items. Those generally, so depending on the submission we're talking about, whether it's December, October, year end, those items will look different, but those are generally things that affect funding, block records, or are very important for reporting at that period of time. The bottom section are things that you should still review, but you don't necessarily need to respond to us about it. And again, we just ask that you review everything on the letter before finalizing, even if it turns out that what we marked is, there's nothing wrong. I'm not going to go through all of these, but these are the things that I was talking about on that top section of the letter that we review by submission period. So again, it's going to be different in October than it will be in July. And these are the critical things that affect reporting and funding that we do need to be correct. So October, I'm not going to go through all of those, but you can read through this later. And then December is generally a lot of special ed data. And then year end, I will go through these just because this is what we're going into. So as Riley talked about, all fatal errors should always be looked at. We know there's some exceptions generally in big districts where they might leave fatal errors, but for most charters and other LEAs, fatal errors need to be cleared before you finalize. Warnings should always be reviewed, especially those warnings that can turn fatal. Enrollment counts and membership, these need to be accurate in July. We always get emails like later on after funding is distributed in the fall about enrollment counts and membership from year end. So we really need those to be reviewed and accurate in July. The reading on grade level and early numeracy data is one of those validations that doesn't start triggering till the last day of school. So it's good to start reviewing it now for the purpose of teachers leaving, because if there's statuses that haven't been entered, it's hard to track down people once they've left for the summer. So make sure that you start, even though the validations aren't triggering yet, if you know you have a lot of that data to enter, it's easier to do it when teachers are still in the building. Similar to the intervention data, that's not just reading, but also early numeracy. Those actually will trigger fatal errors. So again, even though if you have blank interventions now, they're not going to show up as errors, they will as soon as the last day of school hits. Kindergarten type codes, we've always looked at this, but this is especially important and relevant now that finance has changed the way kindergarten is funded. We need these codes to be accurate. And for those that were here for the October submission, know that we had to do a Qualtrics survey because we found that a lot of LEAs didn't have those codes in accurately. This is referring to half day and full day. So those, they need to be accurate in July. We will be pulling your data on the review and giving you your counts so you have a reference and then can correct them if they don't look right. I will just say with kindergarten type codes, I believe Aspire in the past has defaulted to the half-day code, so just beware that your SIS might be defaulting the code and you actually have to go in and change it if it is full day. Incident data, this is another big one for year end. We hope that you're submitting all year round on this, but year end is when it's due. And so we have sent out preliminary reviews on this already for LEAs that have no incident data in UTREX or very few incidents entered. And the purpose of that was just to help out LEAs earlier so that you have it on your minds before July. I need to start entering this. The SCRAM extended school year counts. This is a year-end item that we always look at. There's also a report on the UTREX reports that you can look at those counts. Early graduates, and then all graduation data. This is exit codes, high school completion status codes. Those all need to be entered. For graduation, I also just want to point out, even though we don't run the final grad rate till October, finalized data comes out. It's just really helpful if in July, to the best of your ability and the best of registrar's ability, if you can get those codes right, because there's certain codes that if you entered and finalize it in July, and then something changes by October, it will trigger a permanent exit error. And the only way to clear those is through a historical update, which are manual. And so we understand that happens, and there will definitely be circumstances where you have to use the historical update process for those. But in the case where an entire school is defaulting, maybe to like the graduation pending code or RT code, or you just want to look at that and make sure that you're entering the data as best you can at year end. That way come October, you have less cleanup to do. And then those students that really do change their mind or change what they did over the summer, you can use the historical update process for those few students instead of hundreds of students. And then lastly, we do also look at credits attempted, credits earned, and course grades. These are year-end items that we don't look at in October, December. All right, is there any questions on all of that? We will send it all out. Okay, otherwise I will turn the time over to Melissa. And again, for those that need to head off to lunch, this is the last item, but we'll just let Melissa go real quick.
Okay, can everybody hear me okay?
Go ahead, I think we hear
Okay.
you.
Okay, perfect. So thank you, everybody. I apologize. I'm digging into your lunch a little bit, but I will go through this as quickly as possible while still covering it. So my name is Melissa Preziosi. Part of my responsibility at USBE is to update the UTREX specifications document when we have updates. I'm kind of the one going into the document itself and making those updates in this Word document that we upkeep. So that's why I'm here to talk about it. So here's an outline of what I'll be talking about. We can just move on to the next slide. So if anybody isn't aware of what the UTREX specification is exactly, like I said, it is a document, and it just includes every single data element that you need to or optionally need to include in your UTREX submission, and explains what each element is and information about how to fix errors if they happen with that element. So it's just really valuable for anybody who works with the UTREX specification and understanding what needs to be in there and how it needs to be in it. So that's what it is. In terms of where can you find it, we post a link to a PDF of the document on our website. So if you could do 3 clicks here, whoever's driving the slides, thank you. So we post it on our website. It currently lives, it's still in the same place it used to live, but we did update our website. So it's still in the same place in the analog of what our website used to be. It's still on the information technology homepage. And then on the bottom of that homepage, there's the UTREX transcript and record exchange link. So on the left side of this slide, and then if you go to that link, you'll be brought to the UTREX page of the website, and that is the page where the link for the clearinghouse specification lives. And that link will be updated at any time that the document is updated. So that's where you can find the link. I've put the link itself, it's on this slide. And then one final click for this slide. I would highly suggest you make a bookmark to that page. I'm going to be talking about how often we update this document, and because it is updated fairly often, rather than keeping a static version of it saved on your desktop, I highly suggest having the bookmark so you can always get to the most recent version when you need it. So talking about updating, perfect is we have set up a update schedule for the document. Previously, it was more of a ongoing kind of thing, but we now have determined 2 times during the year where I call it kind of an editing period. It's a 2-week period where I work on the document and I make all the updates and edits that it needs. I just keep a running list of any updates as they occur. As most of you know, the updates are usually we're made aware of it as soon as possible, at least 18 months ahead of time. So there's enough time for LEAs to make the changes that may need to happen in their SIS system for certain requirements, and also so I can be aware of the change and start making and drafting the changes I need to make in this document. So that's how we're working the updates, at least in the document itself, twice a year. And highly suggest to tune into the monthly LEA data meetings that this group has. That is where you can find all the most up-to-date information about the UTREX specifications and UTREX changes. Next slide, please. So the document layout. So here's just a screenshot of the table of contents. You saw a similar image when Stephanie was speaking. It's just sorted by the record type in UTREX, so you can see that here. And each record type has 3 different subsections in the document. So next page, please. So we have 3 different sections under each record type. One is the CIF mapping. That's more programming information for your development folks, so they'll use that. The second part is a detailed field description. This is where I spend a lot of time. I find it really, really helpful to understand new elements, or if I haven't had a lot of experience with some element out there, this is where I would go and get an understanding of what it is, what it means, what are the options and characters we can use for submission, that sort of thing. We do try to add some helpful tips or notes in there as well when we can. And then the third section, which is also really helpful, is the errors or validation section. So if you do have an error pop up, it usually will give you kind of a little description of how you could fix it right in your submission, but it is really helpful to kind of cross-reference that with the specifications, because it will give you further information about why that error happened and how we can fix it. So the second and third section here really highlight those as great resources. Next page, thank you. So the last slide I have is just some tips for navigating the document. It is a very large document. So most of these you're probably already aware of, but just some tips. Please use Control F. It is a searchable document. If you're looking for a particular element or section and you know what you're looking for, searching for keywords is the fastest way to find it. Red text in the document is going to denote something that has recently been added. And any strike-through text you see is going to represent content that was recently removed, but we try to keep the strike-through text in there at least for 1 school year. just in case somebody needed to know what used to happen. And that can sometimes help our understanding of why things are currently the way they are, if we can see how they used to be. So we do keep that in there for a little bit of time, not forever, but we do find it helpful. And then one of the sections that you'll see right at the top of the document is called recent revisions. So this is also a section that gets updated often. It's where you're going to find just a bulleted list of all the most recent changes to the document. It's just really, really helpful to look through that when, as soon as a new addition or a new update happens to the document, you get a clear snapshot of anything that has changed right away. So I love that part, and it's updated, and I try to keep it so the recent revisions are recent, and I don't just keep all the changes on that part. Anything that's in the recent revisions that is kind of been old enough and it's not so recent anymore, it gets moved to the bottom of the document where there's a like a historical record of all the revisions. So that's also helpful to know. Okay, one more thing. Sorry. The other great thing about the recent revisions is every single revision has a link or bookmark in it that will take you right to the part of the document where the revision happened. So that was it. And yep, I know I raced through this as fast as I could. My name is Melissa Preziosi. If you have questions about UTech specification, please feel free to reach out, or I will find somebody who can help you with those. Thank you so much, and enjoy your lunch.
Thank you. Okay. Do you guys need 15 minutes more? So start 15 after?
About 10 minutes. The schedule already.
I'm asking people in the room because do you need an hour? Do you need 45 minutes? Okay.
Love to get that.
Start at 1 o'clock. Thank you. Okay.